All right. Good morning, everyone. Hopefully, everyone is having a wonderful day. It's your boy Rome. I am here working from the home studio today. I've had a couple of people contact me, and I think it's kind of odd, but they were saying that they were having difficulty finding links or following me on social media. So, this morning I'm going to start off with the simplest ways that you can find me on social media as well as on the web. What you guys see on the screen right now, this is my main website. This is at HoustonProfessionalPhotography.com. You can Google Houston Professional Photography. You'll usually find that link, or you can just type in HoustonProfessionalPhotography.com and you will go right to the site. And pretty much everything that you're looking for, my body of work, types of photography that I do, retouching, things like that. All of that you'll find here on this page. Retouching videos, podcasts. I have some login areas, for clients, testimonials, things like that. You'll find them here on the page. And down here at the very bottom, you will find all of my social media links, for Instagram, for Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter. I think that one is for SmugMug, and then a regular email. Okay. So if you are on Instagram, this is what you're looking for. You can just do a search for Houston Professional Photography and you will find my Instagram page. Simple enough. On Twitter, it's basically the same thing. Houston Professional Photography, you can search and you will find me. And then YouTube, same thing. Houston Professional Photography. There we go. And if you're on Facebook, obviously there's a number of Facebook pages that I'm associated with. The main Facebook page for my services is Houston Professional-Photography. But if you just do a search for Houston Professional Photography, you will find me. Now, I do have a few pages under my name, which is Rome Wilkerson. You'll find those as well. And there's a few groups that we've set up, recently, this group here for learning photography. So anyone who's interested in learning photography or learning the basics of retouching, you can click on the link on my Facebook page or in the description of this video. You're more than welcome to join the group, start asking questions, follow my lives. Today I'm live on my main site, and I'm going to be doing 30 days of lives. I think this is number 8. So, you can look forward to those additional days, each day. They won't be, as long as some of the original ones, where I started out with, 30, 40-minute long lives. I realized that, a lot of people like to watch the shorter format presentations. Now, if you're familiar with some of the techniques and things that I'm showing in these videos, then, it'll be really easy for you to follow along. In some cases, you got to remember that we are talking to people who don't have as extensive of a background, maybe in photo editing, retouching, organization, or familiar with some of the software that we may be familiar with. So it's important that, we also take into consideration that those people need to, kind of catch up. So, okay, so let's move on. Let's see where we're at here. So that's pretty much it. Those are the main social media platforms you can find me. Now, if you're on Instagram or Facebook, really quick, so go back here to Instagram. I do have a Koji link here, and if you click on that link, it will take you to my Koji page, and that'll give you some links to other things, like my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, as well as the main site. We're doing this thing now. If you're interested in, trying to win a photo shoot locally here in Houston, you can just, click here, enter your information, and we'll pick someone over the next 30 days, and, they'll win a photo shoot. And I also have a podcasting website. So if you click here, you can go over to Pod One Media. And this site has a lot of information for, new podcasters, for setting up your podcast, resources, little small podcasts that I've done myself, just as kind of like test, so that I can help others create theirs. So all the information is here. You can rent equipment from us if you need that, or we can come in and help you set up your equipment so that you have a permanent, a little mini studio, in your home or office or something like that. All right. So I think I've gone over all of those different areas. So I think everybody should be on the same page with that. Okay, cool. Let's move on. All right, guys. So today, based on a few questions that I had last night, we're going to go over this kind of my workflow, right? So I'm just picking some images that I shot before in the past. These were captured when I was using a Nikon camera, and I think it might have been the D850 or D810 or something like that. I don't remember which camera it was. But I wasn't shooting tethered at the time, but you can still use Capture One or Lightroom, whichever software you decide to go with. And if you don't want to pay for one of these services, you can actually buy Capture One outright, and you can own it, and then they still allow you to do some of the updates. But if you want a free version of a software similar to this, you can look at Darktable, which has a lot of the same similar features, and it's 100% free. So that's another option. But usually what I do once the shoot is over, if I'm not shooting tethered, today, almost every shoot I do is going to be tethered. I don't care if it's even, going into someone's office, for headshots or something like that, it's going to be tethered. So, and what I mean by tether, for those who may not know, that means that the camera is connected via cable to the computer, and every time I take a shot or capture an image, it will appear on the screen and save it here to the computer, which is then also backing it up to an external drive. And then what I do is I allow the client to have near them a tablet, an iPad, and then they can see the images soon after, not during the shoot obviously, but soon after they can go back in and they can review the images and make their selections. And then once they've made their selections, then I can just, later that day or something, go in and start doing all of the editing for the images. So, that speeds up the workflow a lot, because in the past, what I would do is we would capture the images, and then we would bring those images into, Lightroom or Capture One, and then we would render them out, and then upload them to another site, like SmugMug or something like that. Then we would send the client a link where then they would then go in and make their selections, or give us the information, the file number or something along that line, which image they wanted. And then at that point, we would go in and edit the image, and, we just kind of go from there. But this workflow here where you're tethering really speeds up your workflow, because it puts right in front of the client, simply enough, all of the images. Now, say something like this, if you're working with a fashion brand or a new designer or something along that line, the advantage to this is that you can be tethered into your computer, and then you can set up Capture Pilot on your iPad, and then they will also see these images as soon as they come across. So as soon as you see an image, they'll see it on the tablet as well. And that's a really cool, efficient way to work, because then that way you don't have someone, hovering over your laptop, or hovering over your shoulder, looking at the images, whatever the case it is. So that also gives them the ability to go in and also, star or rate the images. So that will speed up the workflow for them as well, because then once you know which images they want, it makes it that much easier for you to go in and do whatever your final preparations are going to be before you deliver the images to your client, right? So let's say, for instance, we're using this image as an example, and they have the ability to go zoom in and look at the clarity, the sharpness, if there's any imperfections in the outfit, So you can look really close here and say, okay, well, I see this shadow. Is that something we can address with lighting, or is that something that's going to have to be done in post? Well, usually, depending on how you're lighting these, especially on a seamless background, you have a lot of control, but little things like this, like what I'm showing here, where the shadow is, the best way, I'm not going to say it's the only way, but the best way we would address this is that you would apply tape, double-sided tape underneath the garment, which would stick the garment to the model so that the garment wouldn't raise up as they're moving around, something like that. But those little tricks you learn as you go. So even if you look at this one here, you see the shadowing. And I mean, shadows are not a bad thing. I mean, shadows can be beautiful if they're used the right way. So like from this angle, we don't have a lot of shadowing. So it just depends on the direction the light is coming from and what the model is doing and how they want the image to be displayed at the time. So we're going to just pick one of these, and I'm going to kind of go through my little workflow for getting one of these ready. This is a perfect example where here you can kind of see part of the, where the background ends and on the seamless paper. But usually you're going to be cropping these in, so that's not as big of a deal. So we're going to just, let's see, which one do we want to work with? So if it was all about the outfit, let's say this was the image, okay? So we choose that one or something like it. And usually most designers are going to want at least 3 different angles of each outfit. They'll want something, half body here, something full body, and then, most likely they'll want a rear image of the same outfit. We didn't do any for this specific outfit, but you kind of get the idea, right? So let's just say we go with, or they would go with one of these. Okay, so we're going to pick this one, and we're just going to open this in Photoshop. So we're going to open with, I don't know why this version of, there it is, of Capture One doesn't have Photoshop listed higher in your selections. For some reason it's way down here, and that's just kind of odd. But yet my standalone programs, On One is like featured up here at the top. But anyway, we're going to open this in Photoshop, and always try to make sure when you're transferring your photos over, you're staying in 16-bit, and you can work with a TIFF, JPEG, or a PSD. I prefer to work with TIFF. Minimum resolution is going to be 300, somewhere between 300 and 350, but 300 is, kind of the industry standard. So we're going to go ahead and just export that, and then that should go over to Photoshop, right? So this was one of those really high-key style shoots, and that's, what the designer wanted, was something really, really high-key, really clean. Let's see. We don't want anything, so let's just, oops. So we want to crop this, but we just want to bring it in just a little bit. So I'm just holding Shift, and I'm drawing in to get a little bit closer to her head. And then I'm going to move her over where she's kind of centered along this line here. So you can see here the converging lines on her body. The front line here is like the front part of her body. The second line is where her shoulder is, and also where you see this little triangle. And the feet are basically on those same lines. So you're trying to crop this in such a way that it draws the eye straight to that image. So, all right, we're just going to hit enter, and we're done with that, okay? So the next thing I would do is I would look at the image overall, And to me, this is extremely, extremely high key. I mean, I personally wouldn't want this, but I mean, after, experimentation on that day, this is exactly what they wanted. So that's what we went with. But from my perspective, I'm not going to do a ton of editing on the photo. Now, if they want, full retouching or something along those lines, that's going to be up to them. If they want me to do it, that's possible. Or if they're going to be sending this out to another company to do the retouching, or if they want us to refer someone to do the retouching. So there's a few things that definitely need to be retouched in this image, but let's just start with the basics, right? So we look at the floor. We can see down here if there's any footprints or anything like that. There are not a lot. There are a few, but they're not major. So you could just grab, a very simple tool here, and you could just go in and just kind of just start masking those out or blending those together. Because like I said, someone is going to do much, much more in-depth retouching. You just want to get rid of anything that shouldn't be there, and you're good to go. Now, what I am going to do, I'm going to adjust this image a little bit because I still think it's too high key. So I'm going to open it in Camera Raw and see if I can I could have just done this in Capture One, but since we're already in Photoshop, we'll just do it inside of Photoshop itself. So this is in Capture Raw. So the first thing you can do is you can just hit auto and see what the computer thinks or what Photoshop thinks is natural. So this is what Photoshop thinks the natural lighting should be, which is more underexposed. But then you can easily enough just bring your exposure back up somewhat. It doesn't have to be like, where it was here versus, you just want to bring back some of her skin color and texture and tone. But because we were shooting so high key, you'll wind up with, some coloring issues. So then you can also go in here and sample from like her eye and get your white balance right. Then you can still start kind of bringing your exposure down a little bit, and you can adjust the saturation, get it closer to, as close to natural skin tone. Now, always, in almost all of my shoots, I start off with a gray card. But if for some reason you don't have a gray card, but there is something black or truly white in the image, you can usually use that to get your white balance, right? Now, I know for a fact on this day, she had been, the makeup artist who did her makeup also did body makeup, so she sprayed her with like a spray-on tan, and that's where a lot of this color is coming from. I remember that now. So I'm going to see how much of that we can adjust out without losing all of her skin color. That's not too bad. Because you can tell, by looking at the outfit, it is the color it should be. That is the blue that I remember. But I'm also remembering, as I look in here closer, you can see the transitions in the skin where the color was different. And that was just because, they did the, it's kind of like airbrush makeup, but it's for the whole body. So we're going to rock with this. So, and let's zoom in here a little bit. And you can even start to see the transitions, where the makeup is, really saturated on her body and not as much in some other areas. Now you see this makeup used more likely, like you can see here in her chest where they didn't use a lot of it versus like the side of her body here where there's, more of it, saturation. But one of the things you will see this type of makeup used for is going to be like bodybuilders and things like that. A lot of them use this type of makeup, this spray-on tan, before they go out and compete. So it's basically the same thing. So this whole shoot was very experimental, back then. The makeup artist, the hairstylist, the wardrobe, the things that the designer was working on, all of these were kind of experimental for that shoot. So anyway, guys, I don't want to, just keep banging on the same thing. So let's see what we can do here to try and clean this up just a little bit. So let's go ahead and make a duplicate layer. And we're going to go in and clean up some of the things on our face. We're not going to do a lot of that. I mean, all of you guys have seen me do this multiple times, you know, where I go in and clean up some of the imperfections. Just, you know, basically clone those out. And like I said, now, if you're doing a full retouch, you're going to be far, far more detailed. I mean, you're going to be really micro dodging and burning and really close in on a lot of these touch-ups and looking at all the different, you know, skin transitions, things like that. Those are the things that, you know, a professional retoucher is definitely going to do for you. But from my perspective, if I was going to be using this, say, for my portfolio or for Instagram or, you know, something that wasn't going to be printed, you know, really, really large, then for the most part, I wouldn't do a lot of the micro dodging and burning and stuff like that. I would just go in and just clean up the necessities, you know, the things that need to be. So like right here where there's like little folds under the skin, you can see some lines on her arm, and those are usually from like outfits or something that they wore the day of or the day before, you know. That's why I always try to work with the models, or if I get a chance to talk to them before, you know, to advise them, you know, things they definitely want to do and not do. You know, like they want to make sure they stay really, really hydrated, drink a lot of water, don't drink any alcohol, you know, because you want your body to be as hydrated as possible during a shoot so that your skin will have, you know, really good elasticity and things like that. But, you know, like I said, a lot of these little things are not that difficult to correct. You can just go in and, you know, move a few things around if necessary. And then the rest is just, you know, finding wherever those little things are. Now, these are like little freckles. You know, this is really not a big deal. You know, I'm just showing you guys, again, what you can do or what can be done. Now, here's some scarring on her hand. And this was from, I'm assuming, an accident or something that may have happened in her past. Now, you can go in and clean this up because this may be one of the things that the designer wants you to fix. So there's a number of different ways you can go about doing this. The fastest way is just to clone her skin. So you pick a healthy area that you want to work with and sample from it, and you just kind of just start painting in. Now, you may want to bring your opacity down somewhat, or at least your flow, and adjust your flow so you don't wind up with hard lines, and you can just still kind of go over multiple times, and you're still maintaining a lot of the texture while you're doing this so it doesn't start looking very artificial. But you also got to remember that, you know, an area of the skin this small, most of the time people are not going to be able to see it because they won't be able to really zoom in on it. So what I'm trying to do here, is I'm trying to blend it where it looks a little bit more natural. So then when I do go in and do a different technique, it'll just look like I adjusted something from natural skin and this scarring wasn't there. So we just go in and just clean this up. You know, last night, a friend of mine, we tried a couple of new things here on Facebook. And one of those was the Facebook Live, what is it, Facebook Rooms or something like that. And it works. It's a lot like Zoom, but it has some limited features. And I do foresee how, you know, well this is going to be used in the future. Because, you know, anything that, you know, Facebook can put out there for us to use, and especially for free, you know, they're just going to keep adding features over and over and over again. They're going to add more and more, you know, better features. I'm just amazed that, you know, Google, their little meeting software doesn't have the ability to broadcast live. So, I mean, a lot of these platforms, of course, you can go in and you can do you know, group rooms and things like that. And you can say, oh, well, you know, I can have all my friends, or, you know, if you're teaching or something like that, you know, you can have those. But what we were looking to do was to be able to maybe partner in some lives my friend Marcus is really versed on computers and marketing and things like that. And I thought that would be something that you guys would be really interested in interacting with possibly both of us, doing a live or something like that. I'm still going to experiment with it and see what's going to work best. And I mean, you can see here if I turn off this layer, before and after. And if you're looking at this, from this size, or the size that someone would normally see this maybe on a smartphone, you wouldn't see any of that. So that's what I mean by you don't really have to go in and spend so much time working on all of the little small details that most people will not see. So as I zoom in here, I see a transition here in her skin color. I see a few here. And I mean, you can do some frequency separation if you want to, but if all you're doing is delivering this to the client, I don't think any of that's going to be necessary. Because like I said, your retoucher is going to go in and they're going to clean up the eyes and they're going to clean up the makeup and all that type of stuff. Now these little mirrors here were a nightmare because they're exactly what you think. Even though they're little plastic mirrors, you got light coming from every direction, so that can be a huge problem. But we were able to make it work. So let's say we're going to do a little bit of frequency separation on this, and then I also want to just fix her hair up here. So there's a number of different ways you could do that. You could clone and remove some, or you could go into liquefy and just kind of bring, enlarge this little area just to fill in that area. So it depends on how you want to go about it. So, a real easy way to do it would be to just clone it, so you could just pick an area here and then just kind of start painting it in where you can see it and just keep going. And let me raise the opacity back up to 100. So you could just really just paint this in so you don't have that little dip there. And then, just pick a few areas and just kind of blend it in as best you can. That's one way to do it, right? But another way that you can do it, I'm trying to remove all of these, is that you could open this layer in liquefy. And then you could simply enough go in here. So you zoom into the area and you can start off trying maybe with your push tool, and you can kind of push the hair in the direction you want it to go and then blend the rest, just so you don't have that big dip, where it just looks like the hair fell off or it's missing. So you're just going to go in here and just correct it just a little bit. But since we're already in here, I'll just fix a few of the other little things. So all we did there is just bring that up just a little bit. Don't overdo it. So before, after, before, after. There we go. So that's pretty much it. I mean, it really depends on the image, what it is you want to accomplish. So we're going to open another image, and I'll show you some of the other, problems that I'll run into. I'm not going to save this. This was from yesterday, from a different shoot for a lingerie line. And let's go back over here to capture one. I think I still have this. So these are some of the lingerie shots, some of the bikini style shots. And I think I remember the ones that were used like for the little packaging or flyers or whatever you want to call them. And they can vary. And then the other issue that you will run into as a photographer is that many times you'll be working with clients who are finding models or girls that they want to use as models, but they're not models. They may be, you know, attractive people, but they're not actually models. So it's going to be up to you as a photographer, you know, to work with them and make sure that you can capture the images that you're looking for. Or if it, at the end of the day, what you're capturing is going to work, you know, from a degree that, you know, someone who's doing the post work can go in and manipulate that image and make it look like exactly what they want to use it for you know, in the campaign itself. So there's some, you know, body shape area things that would normally be addressed, you know, in this type of shoot, you know, because they want the image to look as symmetrical as possible, right? So usually what we would do in a situation like that, you're going to be doing a little bit of liquefying, you're going to be doing some masking where you're taking, you know, certain things out that might be, you know, they don't want in the image, like lines under the arms or something like that. And you'll do some, you know, skin texture corrections and stuff like that. So we're going to pick one of these. Which one should we pick? I wish it was easy. I could set it up where you guys could vote and say, oh, no, I want you to do that one. Okay. Maybe in the future. We don't know. You know, because technology is, I mean, this year, man, it's just amazing how many things have come out, you know, with the new Macs, with, you know, just everything you can think of, right? Probably going to go with one of these because then I can do the body modifications without it looking so weird. Okay, so let's say we're going to pick this one. So we're going to go ahead and open this one also in Photoshop. Again, 16-bit TIFF, 300 DPI, and we're going to open it in Photoshop. Then let's just zoom in here. Now there's some lines on the floor that need to be taken out. I mean, that's neither here nor there. I mean, you can do it, or, you know, you can just allow the retoucher to do it. From them stomping around on the floor, you still have some footprints here on the floor. And like I said before, that's really simple to fix. So first thing we want to do is we want to just crop this down to a workable size to about what we want to deliver, right? So let's just bring this in. And we're going to do the same thing as before. We're going to center her and kind of set her right on those lines, like I said before, right? So we want to put her body right on that first line, face right in the center of this center square, and just hit enter. And then let's just zoom in here. Now, most of these little things here on the floor are relatively easy to take out. You could just, the simplest way would be to just grab this tool and select it and just drag to a clean area. That didn't work out too well, but that happens sometimes too. So you have to keep looking for a spot. You still may have to go in and clone and touch this up, but I'm just showing you there's simpler ways that you can get rid of this stuff. I mean, you could just grab it and just start moving around or whatever. But sometimes this happens, right? So when that starts to happen, what I usually do is I would just use my clone stamp tool, right? So I would just go here, pick an area, enlarge the brush, and then just start kind of painting it away. And that's just going to speed it up. So even here where there's another line, you're just blending this so it doesn't look so obvious, right? So you can get in here, you're going to have to resample a few times, and you can find that spot and then just start masking it out or cloning it out to get rid of it. I'm going to speed it up. It doesn't have to be perfect for this. But if you're doing this, again, like I said, for a client, you want to take more time. You don't want to, rush like I'm doing here. I'm just trying to make sure that this video doesn't wind up being 2 hours long. So you could go in and hit these little spots just to clean it up. And it can be time consuming, but I'm going to go in and fix those little areas where I can see the clone is touching like her. stockings or what have you. But I'm just showing you guys, you can just really speed this stuff up if you need to. But if you can, try to avoid shooting these things in the first place. So this is something that you wouldn't have to do later on. So, and that is just taking the time to look at your scene, look at what's around you. I see so many photographers, especially, in the beginning where they're doing a bunch of little workshops and, they just show up and the model's there and the scenery is already set up and someone has the lighting set up. So all they are basically doing is coming in with their camera or using someone else's camera, and they're just capturing what's ever in front of them. So they don't really have a lot of control, or don't think they have any control when it comes to correcting the little imperfections. Look for the details. Look for the small things. Like they say, the devil's in the details. Trust me, it's going to be the devil in the details when you have to come back and fix this stuff. That's where the problem is going to be. So you see this kind of creates like a little pattern, but you can go in and blur this out. So this is not going to be a big deal. I'm just going to do it kind of quick here so you kind of get the idea of what I'm talking about. So we're just going to take this out and then go back over this a little bit. Just kind of blend it in so it won't look so obvious. You want to stay as close to the color that you're sampling from, but I'm just kind of all over the place this morning, but you get the idea. All right, so I'm sure somebody's going to be looking at this going, oh my God, dude, you should have done it this way, or you've done it that way. But there's very, very advanced techniques that you can use to do the same thing. But remember, these little lives are designed to work for individuals who don't have that skill set as of yet. So what I'm trying to show you is simpler ways that you can do this. Now, another thing you can do, if you want to really clean this up really quick, is you can come here and select a good color and just grab your paintbrush. And then you could just start painting in. Let's bring the opacity up. You can just start painting in that area, just to clean it up. And you can do the same thing on the floor. As long as it's a seamless paper, most people won't notice the difference, Now, if you have a really good monitor, it will show you gradations of, light and dark, and you'll be able to see, where the transitions are. But realistically, if you can clean most of this up in the beginning, most people won't see it. And a more advanced technique would be to just cut the model out, select the model or the object, and then just put it on a seamless background, a cleaner background, where you don't have these imperfections to have to worry about. But we're just going to clean this up, the easy way. Come in here under the shadow. Don't remove the entire shadow, because there should be some shadowing on the floor. You don't want them to look like they're just floating in space, right? Okay, so let's move on. So as we look at this image really quick, and we zoom in here, we can see lines on her body from maybe like a previous outfit. There's a little bit of scarring, a few moles, things like that. Okay, so we can do exactly what we did before to speed this workflow up, right? So we're going to duplicate our layer, Command J on a Mac. I think it's Control J on a PC. And then let's start with the face. So we're going to grab the same tool. We're going to pick a size that's close to what we're going to be correcting. And we're just going to go in and just kind of blend it with the surrounding skin. And like I said, if you have a tablet, this is going to be so much easier for you once you learn how to use the tablet efficiently and get your pressure sensitivity set up right. Most mornings that I'm doing these lives, I'm just using my MacBook, and I'm not using a tablet, or I'm not using the iPad pencil or anything like that. I'm just pretty much drawing with my fingers. So if you don't have those things, you see me doing it exactly that way, and you could go in and do the exact same thing. So you look for all the little small, imperfections that you want to remove, and just go in and knock those out. It shouldn't take you hours in the beginning, but the more you learn, the more in depth you will go with these edits. But it depends on what the client is actually paying for and what they're expecting. Yes, I honestly believe in over-delivering, but not to the degree that it's counterproductive to your workflow. So where you're spending hours working on images that no one is going to be able to see your work because of the way the images are going to be used. Now, if you're doing this just in the beginning, so that you can learn and hone your skills, hey, go for it, do your thing. But when you're working with clients, especially paid clients, they're more interested in your turnaround time, as I've said before. How fast can you get those images to me? I've had clients, actually quite a few, where they don't want any post work done. Exactly what comes off the camera is what they want to walk out with. They have a thumb drive, or they have an SSD that they want you to copy these images to, and everything else is going to be done in-house or by their graphics team or something like that. That's the only thing they want, is the actual image. And you don't have to do any of this. And I mean, in a lot of situations, that's probably one of the best shoots you could do, where you just want to make sure you got high quality images, good lighting, and you're making the job easy for the person who's going to be doing the post work, because you're providing them with very high quality, sharp images. I know a lot of us, in the beginning, we start off and we're watching a lot of people on YouTube talk about depth of field and certain types of lenses. You want a 2.8, you want a 1.8 or 1.4 or 1.2 lens. Trust me, for these type of shoots, you would never use that aperture. You're going to be somewhere around f8 to f16, because you want everything to be in focus. You don't want anything to be out of focus, especially when it comes to wardrobe and things like that, because the client really wants their outfits to stand out more so than they're concerned about what the model looks like. So we're just going to grab a few of these really quick. Everything looks pretty good. So yeah, we could still go in here and if you're going to be providing these for a model or for a modeling portfolio or something like that, of course you can take it a few steps further. You can go in, like I said before, you can clean up the eyes, maybe remove some of the redness. Eye drops still work, guys, just so you know. So, that might be something that you talk to your models about. If they have a tendency, when you meet with them or you see some of their images and you start seeing, the redness in their eyes, let them know, hey, you may want to, consider eye drops or something like that. But it doesn't matter, because you can still go in and fix these. So it's not going to be that big of a deal. All right, so, we've done our touch-ups. We cleaned up the skin a little bit. We cleaned up those marks. Now, so here, the shape of the body, we can easily fix that. We can just take this layer here into Liquify. And that's what I was talking about with the body shape for these type of shoots. Because these are not models, they're just usually friends of friends. And they have, nice bodies, but, again, they're not professional models. So there will be some things that you may have to correct, especially if you're working with smaller labels and they don't have an in-house graphics team or something like that. And they're like, hey, can you fix this? So you can go in and just kind of clean it up. It doesn't have to be, where it looks like, she was printed off of a machine or something. You're just going to go in and just improve upon those lines a little bit. And so like one of the things with her, because she's somewhat petite, is that you see how the front of her body kind of protrudes outward. So what you could do here is just, take your brush, make it larger, and just kind of flatten her down just a little bit. You don't want to push it in to the point where it doesn't look natural. You just want to try and even that out a little bit. That's all you want to do, just even it out. And even here, just a touch. Less is more in some situations, okay? So, I mean, there's a number of things that I could do. You know, I could go in and adjust her jawline a little bit and stuff like that. But these are also those things that I talked about before. When you're there on the day of this shoot and you see these things happening, you know, this is why tethering is so powerful, because you see something like this where her face is being obscured by her arm. And you can say, okay, what I'm going to need you to do is to bring one of those hands a little further down so that this would not be here on her chin, or she wouldn't be resting her chin on her arm. But you know, these are the things we learn from, you know, experience. So you know, you'll do them, you'll see it, and then you'll, you know, come back and look at that image and go, oh my God, we should have done this or we should have done that. But once you do a couple of these shoots, or you look at someone else's images, start to analyze the image and say, okay, this is how I want to break this image down. And I got a while back, I can't remember, what is her name? Oh my God, what is her name? She's a famous photographer. I mean, almost everyone has watched her workshops at one time. Lindsay Adler. She has a ebook that you can buy, and you can download it. I'll show you here real quick something from it. So in this ebook, one of the things that she shows, this is her, Lindsay Adler, and the whole ebook focuses on hand positions. You know, teaching your models, teaching your clients how to place their hands to get the best results, you know, for certain types of portraits, right? And it gives, you know, little simple directions or information about the pose and how it's being utilized, things like that, right? But you can also find a lot of information similar to that on, you know, by looking at Google Images or Pixels or high-end images, or you other photographers, you know. So you want to start, you know, putting together your own little group of images that you can keep maybe on your iPhone or on your tablet. So then that way you can show a model, you know, hey, here, this is the pose that we're trying to go for this specific, you know, style shoot. And you can walk them through those poses where they have an idea. And in some situations, you know, if you're going to be working with a model and, you know, your shoot is a few days away or a couple of weeks away, you can even provide them with those sample images to say, okay, you know, based on the outfits that the designer has, you know, presented to me, here are some of the poses I think are going to work well. But remember, everything is fluid during one of these shoots, so it's definitely going to change. Trust me, it changes like literally by the second, you know. So, you know, getting the poses, making sure your lighting is proper, you know, that's going to be the key to success for these type of shoots. So, all right, guys. So I don't know how long we have been online here today. Let me see. Does it say? No. Well, it doesn't say. But anyway, it doesn't matter. All right, guys, I'm going to bring this live to an end. Hopefully, you guys have learned something new. Okay, there's the time. I've been online for 49 minutes and 25 seconds as I speak. So I will be online again tomorrow. Hopefully, what I pick won't, you know, take so much time. But, you know, you can watch these videos at your leisure. You know, they'll be posted on the sites, and you can find them on YouTube as well. There'll be some snippets that I may, you know, combine and put them on Instagram or something like that. So the information will be out there for you. But going forward in the future, we will be doing something where you guys will be able to better interact with us, and we'll set up some rooms where we can still do these type of demonstrations, but then people can interact and talk. I do foresee in the future doing one of these group rooms where each person will have an opportunity to share their screens, and then that way you can show us what you're working on, and if you're running into a problem, maybe we can walk you through it so it can help, increase your skills, with that type of instruction. All right, everyone, I will see you guys tomorrow, same bat time, same bat location. Stay safe, wash your hands, take care of your loved ones, and get out there and create something amazing. Peace. I'm out.